to make some fast money. And now, here is your host, Rod Villagomez, with all of this weekend's best motorsports bets. Welcome in, everyone, to another episode of Fast Money here on For Frequency's Sake. I am your host, Rod Villagomez. As we always do every Friday, we are going to have a little bit of parlay fun with the motorsports weekend. This weekend, sadly, there's really only two races going on for us to bet on. It is, of course, the Xfinity race at Watkins Glen, followed by the Cup race at Watkins Glen. We've got the Shriners Children 200 going on Saturday, followed by the Go Bowling at the Glen for the Cup race on Sunday. So, not a lot of action going on this racing weekend. That's all right. Next weekend, we are packed once more. F1 returns, trucks return. Everybody is back on the track again next week. So, we're going to take a little bit easy for this week's parlays. We're going to have a couple of fun ones, and they're going to involve, of course, the top threes and the top fives because, again, that's really all we can build at this point. So, let's begin and let's have some fun and win some fast money. We'll start again with both races. We're going to combine some top three markets from both the Xfinity and the Cup race this weekend. Kyle Busch making a start in the number 10 car for the Xfinity series in Watkins Glen for Kaulig Racing. They were going to have AJ Allmendinger. AJ Allmendinger reached his limit. Therefore, they're putting Kyle Busch in that 10 car. That 10 car is fast. That 10 car was one of the fastest cars last week on the Indy Road course. Unfortunately, AJ Allmendinger couldn't pull out the win on that one. But, of course, that 10 car is consistently fast on this track. Kyle Busch, a heavy favorite, not only to win, but a heavy favorite for top three, top five. So we are going to take Kyle Busch and turn a negative into a positive, right? Kyle Busch's top three odds are minus 220 over on Caesars Sportsbook for the Xfinity race, right? To finish inside the top three. Well, we're going to take that and we're going to put it with Martin Truex Jr.'s top three odds at plus 200 for the Cup race. That brings us up to about 3.5. So for plus 336 on the day for us to bet. So we'll turn Kyle Busch's negative into a positive. For Kyle Busch, just even on this track alone, he is been dominant in the Xfinity series. 11 starts, 7 top 10s, 6 top 5s. Only one win, but that came in 2017, was the last time he won in the Xfinity series. 2019 was the last time he actually ran a race in the Xfinity series on Watkins Glen. He started on the pole, had some suspension issues, finished 31st, but he led 21 laps in that race. Kyle Busch, when he comes down to these lower series, tends to be the favorite. He tends to be dominant. We're not necessarily expecting him to win this race. There's another person we have in mind that could win this race, but at the very least, for a top three finish for Kyle Busch, it is certainly doable on this track. So again, we're going to take his minus 220, add that to Martin Truex Jr., who in the Cup race is at plus 200 for a top three. Martin Truex Jr., he has been ridiculously fast on road courses this season. He's just been ridiculously fast in general, a resurgence of his career, as it were. Last season was not necessarily as good for him. Martin Truex Jr. now has 3 wins on the season, and he's done very well for himself. He actually won at Sonoma, which is a road course. In the last road course that we ran, Indy, he finished 7th. So a top 7 finish for Martin Truex Jr. And this car was not necessarily as fast as it should have been. So definitely good speed from him out of there. So we need a top 3 finish out of him. What's he done on this course? Well, up until last year, he had a streak of 4 straight top 3 finishes. He won in 2017, finished 2nd in 2018, 19, and 3rd in 2021. Last year, unfortunately, he finished 23rd, but it's a bad year for him. He's rebounded this year. Like I said, he's got 3 wins in the books. He's won on a road course this season. All we're asking him to do is get a top 3 in this one to cash this parlay of Busch as a top 3 car in the Xfinity series and Truex as a top 3 car in the Cup series. Again, put that together. That's plus 336. We're also going to take Busch's top 5 odds. They're minus 380 right now in the Xfinity series for a top 5 finish. So we're even extending that out a little further to give him a top 5 finish at minus 380. And then we're going to take that and put that with Daniel Suarez as a top 5 car in the Cup race. Now, we've talked about Kyle Busch's ability to run around this track and to be able to put a solid finish together. So if we think he's going to be in the top 3, we certainly think he's going to be in the top 5. As for Daniel Suarez actually had speed. He started on the pole last week at Indy. So he was one of the faster cars and a little bit of a surprise for Daniel Suarez. You don't necessarily think of him as a road course racer. Earlier this season in Austin, started 5th, finished 27th. At Sonoma, he ended up finishing 22nd after starting in 9th place. But like I said, last week at Indianapolis, he started on the pole. He actually finished 3rd in that race. Really good for him. We're not asking him for a top 3 finish at all in this race, but if we were, he could do it. He finished 3rd in his first race here in 2017. Of course, he was in Joe Gibbs equipment at that point. Finished 4th place in that same car, in the 19 car in 2018. Couple of bad starts for him in the 41 and the 99 when he first took over for Trackhouse in 2021, finished 31st. But last year here, he did finish inside the top 5. Could be that Daniel Suarez is peaking at just the right time, and all we're asking him to do is equal what he did last year and get 2 positions lower than he did last week. So I like that. Again, if you take Busch's top 5 at minus 380, put it together with Daniel Suarez's top 5 at plus 165 for a Cup finish, you're going to get plus 235. Again, the theme of the weekend, we're taking a negative and we're turning it into a positive because that is what we do here on Fast Money. We're trying to get you some nice little parlays that aren't necessarily ridiculous because let's face it. All right. I know it's fun to hit the big time parlays and to show your tickets off, but you don't need to do that in order to make money. And in fact, the smaller the parlay, sometimes the easier it is to cash. So we're trying to get you to be a little more responsible in how we parlay. But if you do want to take a gigantic swing, here's a swing for you. Caesars Sportsbook has a boosted parlay of their own where they're giving you Ty Gibbs to win the Xfinity race, which is what we think is going to happen here. Ty Gibbs actually won last week on the Indy Road course. And they're going to put you with Kyle Larson to win the Cup race. Now, the thing about it here is obviously we know that Ty Gibbs can win on this track. He did it in 2021 in the 54. Now, he's not going to be in the 54 this week, but again, it's still Joe Gibbs equipment. So there's a possibility. He started 2nd in the race in 2022, finished 27th, but he led 25 laps in that. And of course, there was a lot of last minute extracurricular activity that bumped him from the opportunity to win that race. So he was a fast car all the way through, probably should have won that race. So in 2 races that he's been in the Xfinity series on this track, he's had the possibility of winning. As for Kyle Larson, well, I'll tell you right now, he's won the last 2 races on this track in the Cup series. Last year, started 2nd, won the race. Year before that, started 4th, won the race. So the odds for this, putting it together for their Caesars boost, if you take Ty Gibbs to win the Xfinity race, Kyle Larson to win the Cup race, it's 25-1, plus 2,500 to cash this bet for both of those guys to win that race. Now, like I said, it's definitely a long shot for a reason. A lot can go wrong and a lot can get you on there, but this one's got a really good shot at cashing, especially because we know how good Kyle Larson can be on road courses. Have we seen it so far this season? Not necessarily. So it's why this is at 25-1, but it's Kyle Larson, and it's very hard sometimes to count out Kyle Larson when his back is against the wall, especially on a track where he's been very good. Like I said, Ty Gibbs could have won both races on the Xfinity Series track there. So, I mean, why not take a nice little stab at a 25-1 for you? And if it cashes, you will be a very happy person, but don't go too heavy on it because it is a long shot for a reason. All right, let's recap. I know we said we were going to keep it short, but this is an exciting weekend, I guess. Turns into a more exciting one than we thought it was going to be. So we'll take Kyle Busch as a top 3 car, add him to Martin Truex Jr. As a top 3 car. Busch is a top 3 in the Xfinity race. Truex is a top 3 in the Cup race. Put those together, you get plus 336. Then we're going to take Busch and his top 5 number at minus 380 in the Xfinity. Put it with Daniel Suarez as a top 5 car at plus 165 in the Cup. Together, That's going to give you plus 235. And then we'll give you Ty Gibbs to win the Xfinity race and Kyle Larson to win the Cup race on Saturday and Sunday. That's 25-1 over there on Caesars. That's it, everybody. That's the parlays for the weekend. That is what we've got going on for motorsports. Enjoy the weekend. Enjoy the races. We'll be back again next week with more Fast Money.